Imagine being able to communicate with angels through a deck of cards. This is Robert Manni, host of Guys TV, and this week my special guest is psychic medium Karen Noe. I've also got Brent Michael Phillips, the creator of Awakening Dynamics. It all starts right here, right now on Guys TV. You can also catch me on KCAA Radio here in Southern California and my worldwide podcast. Guys Radio, Guys TV. Thanks for your support. Okay, Guys Radio, the interview portion of our show. We've got a very special guest today. He's a return guest. He was one of my early guests a few years ago, and he works on Awakening Dynamics. It's a very interesting modality. It's unique. Nobody else is doing it. Brent Michael Phillips is my guest. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He was a world-class software engineer from MIT, and he was one of the people working on the creation of the internet way back when. After he left MIT to produce a technology startup, he had a major physical challenge and years of chronic pain. His elbow actually got locked, and failed treatments led doctors to put him on permanent disability. He had his right arm paralyzed from an experimental surgery. When we talked about it in the past, Brent tried everything, but then he contacted a healer and he experienced his first miracle when his arm was instantly and permanently healed to this day. Since then, he's gone on his own journey, studying with the world's top master healers, gurus, psychics, spiritual teachers, to discover and reverse engineer the scientific laws and principles underlying instant healing and also financial abundance, loving relationships, and according to Brent, even enlightenment, which is a big mouthful there. He's a creator of Awakening Dynamic System for subconscious clearing, instant healing, manifestation, seeing energy and auras, and the ascension of the consciousness from awakening, and once again, to an enlightened state. Brent's Amazon #1 best-selling co-author, inventor of the formula for miracles technology. His passion is teaching, healing, and helping others to experience their own spiritual awakening. Welcome back to Guys Radio, Brent Michael Phillips. How are you, Brent?
I'm great. Excited to be here.
Fantastic. So, tell us quickly, I think for context, for those who are not familiar with your story, could you do a quick overview of what happened to you? I know your arm was locked, you're on permanent disability, nothing worked, and then you had a breakthrough.
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to. So short version is I grew up, I was a total nerd, ended up at college at MIT and grad school at MIT, and I became one of the world's leading experts in computer internetworking. And it was really exciting because when the internet boom started in the mid 90s, I was perfectly positioned. I figured, hey, I can move to California, recruit my best friend, we'll start an internet company and make millions of dollars. And I figured after that, maybe I'll retire to an island and spend my days hot tubbing with supermodels. Right. So that was my plan. But it didn't work out that well.
That's a good plan.
It was a good plan, especially for a young man, right? Why not? And things went well at first. The first year, we did a lot of great websites. My first website was actually the website for the launch of the Sony PlayStation in the summer of 1995. So we did the website for Disneyland, Nissan Motors, a lot of good stuff. We even started a second company to make online games based on my grad school research. So really the sky was the limit. But I got crushed by my health, that I was working 60, 80, even 90, 100 hours a week. I came down with devastating repetitive stress injuries. And I learned years later, I had also contracted chronic Lyme disease, and I was suffering from chemical poisoning from aspartame. So I was a mess. And long story short, I spent 3 years in conventional treatment that didn't help me at all. And I got kicked out by the top doctor at Curlin Jobe, which is the biggest physical therapy clinic on the West Coast. And when I was 27, he literally sent me home to die, telling me there was no way I could get out of pain. There was no chance I could ever work again or have a normal life. And that was devastating. I turned to alternative medicine to try to find a solution. And I spent the next 5 years living with my parents on disability, running up a huge credit card debt, doing all this alternative medicine. And I mean, you name it, I tried it, right? I did hundreds of sessions of acupuncture. I took herbs. I did cleanses, homeopathy, osteopathy, chiropractic. I mean, I could go on. And nothing made a difference. It was so frustrating. I just kept getting worse. There's all sorts of other drama. My best friend stole the company from me, sold it for millions of dollars. I mean, I could go on and on, all the terrible things that went on.
So let's fast forward. So you met a
Yeah.
healer.
Yep. So we fast forward to after 5 years of more failed treatments, I agreed to have an experimental surgery that a doctor thought could cure me. And instead of helping me, it was a disaster because my right arm was paralyzed by the surgery. So long story short, I spent a lot of things trying to get my arm to move and nothing worked. Then I went to this crazy healer lady named Terry, and she showed me this process of working with subconscious blocks. And it was all very interesting, but I'm like, what does it have to do with my arm, right? But long story short, at the end of our first session, she kind of went into a trance for a minute, and I felt this pop inside my elbow. And I was like, oh my God, I could move my arm again. I had experienced a genuine miracle. And so that's how this software engineer, scientist, and skeptic became a big proponent of energy healing and mind power.
You know, it's amazing because for our listeners out there, Brent is his engineering and his software background. He applies that to spirituality and healing. And I think it makes a lot of sense because it seems like having gone through I've taken one of Brent's courses, I've interviewed in the past, I read his books, and it seems like whenever we can get in a more direct relationship with the divinity, with spirit, we can make things happen. In other words, if you can get up to the fifth dimension, the rules, the 3D rules do not apply. And it sounds like Brent has found a way through rewiring the brain's subconscious software to be able to tack onto spirit in a more direct way without a lot of the garbage there, and just get the work done. I know I've kind of just encapsulated it. Am I on the right track here? Or Brent, you want to take it from there?
Absolutely. Yeah. What I did was I was not born a natural healer or an intuitive, nothing like that. I had to learn this all. And my approach was because I didn't have that natural talent, I went out and I reverse engineered the masters. So I spent a decade running around working with some incredible people with amazing talents, natural healers, intuitives, mystics, shamans, gurus. And little by little, I figured out a lot of what they were doing. And I kind of took it and ran it through what I call my new age fluff filter. And I separated out and got rid of all the feel good and the filler and the nonsense. So what's left is just what really works. Real simple techniques and teachings people can use and apply to their lives to get real results.
Now, are you okay? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's all I had to say. That was
so. Are
awesome.
You then? Because I was just reading a chapter in your book about the different dimensions, third, fourth, and fifth, and you can have instantaneous healings in the fifth dimension. And so, are you rewiring the helping people rewire their subconscious mind so they can access the fifth dimension to create instantaneous healings or whatever it is to address issues instantaneously because you're in a different vibratory state?
That's very close to the truth. Absolutely. It's a great way to put it. That most of us are stuck in what you might call the four-dimensional bubble of biology, right? We got the x-axis left and right, y up and down, the z-axis back and forth, the three dimensions of space, plus the dimension of time. And our biology is stuck in that four-dimensional bubble. But the subconscious mind has the ability to transcend it. The way I would put it is the subconscious mind is the interface to the higher dimensional power. So if you know how to work with the subconscious, you can actually access that fifth dimensional energy and use it for purposes, for things we want in our lives. And it's not too much different than what we've done with electricity. That, of course, humans living in primitive settings, they knew what electricity was. They saw lightning bolts in a thunderstorm, right? They felt static shocks in the winter, but they didn't understand it. They couldn't harness it. But then we figured it out. We discovered the laws of electromagnetism, and we've developed all this incredible technology. So electricity does things for us, right? It heats our homes, it powers our electronics, it runs all these things, right? And the fifth dimension is sort of like that. There's this incredible power and energy that's right there all around us, but our biology doesn't give us direct access to it. But we can do it through the mind and the subconscious. So if you know how to work with the subconscious, you can harness that fifth dimensional energy and power and use it to do useful things. Not too much different than we can harness electricity and use it to do useful things.
So how do you, I love your software approach because I think it makes perfect sense for this. How do you then, what are the steps in layman's terms, and as much as you can, I'm not asking you to give away the special sauce, rewire the subconscious to, I guess, eliminate blockages to be able to do things instantaneously? And I'll put that in quotes.
Sure. It's really, it's a technology. And that's what I'd love for the listeners to take away, that there is a technology to consciousness. There are certain things you have to get right so it works. So if you're going to build an airplane, there are certain things you have to get right. The shape of the wings, the material, the lift and the drag, the power of the engines, right? There's all these pieces you have to put together to make an airplane fly safely. Doing healing or manifesting is no different. There are certain pieces that have to be put into place. And I can give a few of them right now.
Sure.
There's maybe 7 or 8 pieces, a few that are very easy to understand. One is the theta brain state. That in my research on the masters, what I found was there was a really strong correlation between what we call paranormal mystical phenomena, things like instant healings, manifestation, remote viewing, talking to the dead, etc., and a waking theta brainwave, which is the brainwave we normally go into when we're asleep and dreaming. So part of the technology is to learn how to get your brain into that theta state when you're awake and conscious. That the theta state is like a magical key that unlocks the subconscious to us. And this is one of the reasons people doing typical law of attraction and prayer don't often get good results. It's not that there's anything wrong with them. It's just they're using the wrong brainwave. It's nothing personal, right? That trying to do healing from a beta state, which is what we're normally in, is going to work about as well as gluing feathers on your arm and flapping your arms to try to fly. It's nothing personal. It doesn't work that way, right? So my goal with these processes is to show people in simple ways, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. Then you get the result out the other side.
You know, it seems, Brent, that we live in a 3D world and a collective agreement of, you do this and you get that, you do this, you get that, you do this, you get that. It doesn't have to be that way. And I think a lot of the very successful people realize that, you have to know how to allow, have to know how to receive. It's not all about how hard you work, even though you need to put the work in, but it's about knowing how to work with energy. And I think that's what you're doing in your Formula for Miracles. So could you explain to us a little bit about your books? You have the first book, and I've got the second one here, The Experience Part 2, Formula for Miracles. What can our listeners expect to get out of your book, separate kind of from what you teach in your seminars and workshops?
Sure. The second book is really exciting because the second book is all about the science. That what I do is I break down step by step how the science of miracles works, because there are laws of the universe. Many of them we're familiar with: the law of gravity, the law of electromagnetism, the law of fission. There are these laws of the universe that govern how things work. There's physical laws as well as metaphysical laws. Some of the better known metaphysical laws would be the law of attraction, the law of exchange. And so in the same way that if you understand aerodynamics, you can build an airplane. If you understand the metaphysical laws, you can build a healing, you can build manifestation. And the second book is really exciting because it's all about the science, explaining how miracles occur. It's really not a supernatural thing. It's a natural thing that our science has not wrapped its head around yet. I believe Isaac Asimov famously said, sufficiently advanced technology is identical to magic. Mm-hmm. And that's why these things seem like magic to us. It may sound too good to be true. Can we experience instant healings? Yes. And it's not a supernatural phenomena. It's a natural phenomena. It's just using laws of the universe that are not well understood.
And you could go ahead.
Mm-hmm. No, you first.
Well, I was going to say, and you are proof of that because it happened to you. So Brent Michael Phillips, my special guest on Guys Radio. The name of the new book is The Formula for Miracles, The Experience Part 2. So Brent, after you had your miracle healing on your arm and you started to research some of the great masters, I don't know if you looked at masters of the Far East who would be able to kind of be in 2 places at one time and things like that.
Location.
Yep. Yeah. Amazing stuff. But the thing is, there are miracles. We call things that we don't understand often miracles, but there's a lot more out there than we're aware of, and people have a lot more power than they think they do. So, but Brett, along the way, how do you incorporate using your own technology on yourself since that first healing? What have you done with yourself as a practice? Because listeners out there, if they decide to get your books and take your course, they're going to know, they're going to want to know, how do I use this practically so I can work on
Sure.
myself?
What I do now is a little different than what I did 15, 20 years ago.
Sure.
What I'm very focused on now is the higher level work, what we call the quantum field aspect, that there is a life force that exists around us. And people that are very open and connected to this life force tend to have amazing lives. They make a lot of money. People like them. They become famous. They have big careers. And what I learned from my mentor, Carl, was there's specific techniques of movement and meditation we can do to get consciousness back into our bodies and minds. And this will change everything. And that's what I do every day. I do special movements as well as quantum field meditations to get reconnected to the life force. It's kind of,
go ahead, Brent. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, it's kind of like a tube of toothpaste. That the toothpaste represents your power to create wealth, abundance, happiness, love, health. Most of us have squeezed most of the toothpaste out of the tube. And we all know how frustrating it is when there's just a tiny bit of toothpaste left and you're trying to squeeze it out, right? That's how most of us live. We've squeezed out most of our life force and power, and we've got just a little bit left and we're struggling to make it through the day. So in the quantum field work, it's the more advanced parts to learn to get that toothpaste back into the tube, done through special movements and meditations to refill your body, your being with life force energy. And it's not something you learn on day one. It's more like something you learn on day 3.
So I think for our listeners out there who are curious about this, and I'm sure all of them are, how long does it take to be able to get some tangible results, to be able to do some things and work on themselves?
Usually within a few days. Now, it all depends on the person and their goals, right? In terms of making shifts in the subconscious, it takes you maybe 2-3 hours of training. To create instant healings, again, 2-3 hours. But I want to tell the truth. This is not a magic wand that's going to make everything in your life be exactly the way you want overnight. There is no such thing. So there is no process that's going to be 100% perfect for healing. And the fact is, that's not true of conventional medicine either. There's never 100%. But most people can start to see some kind of shifts and results very quickly. And that the key is we have to be open to outcome. That the people who get frustrated are very narrowly fixated on one issue, one result, right? So as an example, I remember I went to a homeopath a long time ago. I went to him because I had severe chronic pain, but I also had this annoying rash on my neck. And he gave me some remedies. He couldn't do anything for my chronic pain, but my rash disappeared. So that's what I mean. As long as we're open to outcome, almost everyone sees some kind of results or changes very quickly. The only trap is if you get really narrowly fixated on one thing. That's what I would encourage people, watch out for that. That's what's going to keep you stuck. Sometimes we have to accept little changes before the big ones come. But sometimes we don't. Sometimes you get the big stuff right away. I had a client last year. She signed up for all of my programs and sessions. And her goal was to get pregnant again because she was 10 years older than her first child. Doctors had told her they didn't want to see her. And she worked with me for 3 weeks and she got pregnant. Not from me, from her husband, right? I want to be clear. And so some people get what they want very quickly. For others, it's a longer road. But here's the important thing, the thing I want all your listeners to hear. It's not a matter of whether or not you can have a life you love. It's a matter of, are you going to give up and quit before you get there? So some may have a shorter road, some may have a longer road. It's like dating. When I was last dating, it took me 3 years and 150 dates to finally find a good relationship. And we ended up getting married. When I met my first wife, my current wife, I was her very first online date ever. So for her, it was easy. She signed up on Match. We had a date the next week. We fell in love. We got married. For me, it was a longer road. But that's how it goes. For some of us, it'll be easy and fast. For others, it's harder. But everybody can create a life they love. The only question is, are you going to give up halfway?
I think great points, Brent. A couple of things. One, a lot of folks, I think, they get into this tunnel vision, as you mentioned, where they want something very specific, and sometimes they don't realize that there could be something far greater out there for them. That what they want, right, and the thing they're trying to get might not be what's best for them. It might not give them the most joy that they want. So we have to be open. Number two, your dating example is exactly what happened to me. I was online dating like crazy. My wife came on Match for a 3-day free trial. I was the only person she met, and we got married, and we've been married for 11 years. So it can happen, wow. But I think, Brett, what you're saying is people have to be open-minded, and they can't squeeze the toothpaste out of the tube. They have to be interested in keeping as much of that toothpaste in there and using it in a way that's that really gets the job done, but doesn't exhaust themselves on the way. Does that make sense? So could you give our listeners, because I want to give you a couple of minutes to talk about your upcoming workshops, what's the one thing they can start on right now before they even, of course, we want them to go get your book. We want them to check out your website. We want them to take your courses, but what's one thing that people can kind of get started on to start to rewire their brain on their own and their perspective?
Sure. So here's a question I would love everyone to ask themselves. What exactly are you? Because we'll look at the secret law of attraction, positive thinking. They'll all tell us, oh, you are a powerful being. You can create the life you want. Okay, I'm not going to argue with that. What I am going to say is, what exactly is this you? This consciousness in your head that you identify as you? I'm not going to offer an answer because I just want everybody to ask the question, because that's the question almost nobody asks. Most of us think we have an idea or sense of what we are. And this is so fundamental, because what if you're off or wrong about that? What if you don't know who you are or what you are? And if that's the case, you're going to have a heck of a time getting to where you want to be in life. But one thing I learned from my mentor was, to get somewhere, you have to know where you are and where you want to go.
Exactly. Great.
So start by asking yourself, who are you? This consciousness in your head. Mm-hmm. And it's okay if you don't have an answer. In fact, the best answer is, I don't know, because that creates an opening for the solution to come in, right? When you're aware you don't know something, you can find the answer.
Fantastic. Great job, Brent. Brent Michael Phillips, the latest edition from the acclaimed healer and author, The Formula for Miracles, The Experience Part 2. I want to give you a couple minutes to talk about your upcoming workshop and where people can find you and your work.
Sure. The easiest thing is just hop onto my website at awakeningdynamics.com. So just go to awakeningdynamics.com. You'll see a lot of cool stuff on the homepage. There's a link to my YouTube channel. There's a whole bunch of great free videos to get you started. You'll also see a link to the Sika training to start your own awakening process. But perhaps most importantly, you'll see a big button that says Save My Seek. I do live webinars about 8 times a year. And in the webinar, I'm going to walk everybody through all the 7 tools of higher dimensional living and do some interactive processes with you, so you can start to experience this for yourself. Because I know there's a lot of people in self-improvement that blow a lot of hot air and make a lot of promises and don't deliver much. What I would ask the listeners to do is just have your own experience. You don't have to believe any of this because I said it or you heard it on the radio. Go have your own experience and see what clicks for you. And I'll walk you through all the 7 tools. I'll show you how to check yourself for subconscious blocks. We'll do some subconscious clearing on you. I'll even introduce you to the higher level work with a quantum field entrainment meditation. And I would love for everyone to have their own experience of the power, the beauty of this work. That, I don't know where I'd be without it. And I'm really excited about getting this out there. It can do so much. Now, again, it's not a magic wand. It's not going to make your life perfect overnight, but it gives you powerful tools to move yourself forward.
Fantastic.
And do things otherwise would be impossible. So check it out, awakeningdynamics.com.
Terrific. Great job, Brent. Always great to connect with you. Again, everybody, I took Brent's course. He's terrific. And his books are available. There's lots of stuff about him and his videos online, Vimeo, YouTube, a lot of interviews. Good stuff, Brent. Great to see you. And let's do it again at some point.
That'd be awesome.
If you're enjoying the guests and content we bring you each and every week on Guys Radio and TV, please support us by subscribing to our channels. Thank you.